Memes and funny content are the number 2 most desired form of content by US social media influencer followers, with brands like Shitheadsteve, Middle Class Fancy, All Gas No Brakes. Doing Things Media has emerged as the leader in meme culture. During this conversation, the Doing Things team will discuss how they have grown their e-commerce business by understanding both cultural internet trends and their community of 60 million plus followers across social media. So for our next session, I'd like to introduce Reed Haley, Derek Lucas, and Amanda Marino, as well as our moderator, Boye Fajinmi. Did I say that right? I sure hope so.
You said it right.
Fantastic, of the Future Party. So take it away. I appreciate you.
Awesome, thank you. How is it going, guys? Just to let everyone know, my name is Boye. I'm a co-founder and president of the Future Party. We're a media brand here in LA, creating cool content. Really excited to talk to the Doing Things media team today. I love memes, and so we should dive right into it. Amanda, Reed, Derek, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Hello, Boye. How you doing?
It's going great.
Good.
So I am curious to kick it all off. Maybe you guys can tell everyone listening a little bit about who each of you is and what you do.
Yeah,
cool.
For sure. Derek,
yeah,
you want
to start? I'm Derek Lucas. I am Chief Creative Officer and co-founder of Doing Things.
I'm Reed, co-founder, CEO of Doing Things.
I'm Amanda. I'm project director at Doing Things. I lead e-commerce initiatives here at Doing Things alongside Reed and Derek.
I love it. You guys are the meme brain. Great. Thank you for introducing yourselves to everyone. I want to dive into a lot of different things today. I think a lot of people are very curious about memes as like an industry, as an economy, right? Most people get it shared to them, but a lot of people don't understand how much of a business opportunity it is, especially in the world of e-commerce. But before we get into the deep, nitty gritty of it all, I'm curious, how do you even define a meme? And I just love your quick thoughts on that. Maybe starting with Reed.
Yeah, and Derek, feel free to touch on this. He's a meme lord himself, but a meme is definitely just like something that is really shareable, like so shareable that it like just spreads really a lot faster than any other type of like concept or information, and it's usually really funny and relatable. I guess that's my definition.
Yeah, I would say like it's like a piece of content that was created for the internet, and then it's got to be shareable. It's usually like shared on some platform, and then a good meme will usually take on a life of its own, and like sometimes you'll see it in the real world, and it'll transcend that. But usually it starts on just a shareable piece of content that's usually funny or informational. On an internet platform.
Nice. Amanda, do you have any thoughts?
They are the meme gods, so they're my answer will never compete with theirs.
So Reed and Derek, I have a question. Is the shirt I'm wearing, could you quantify that as a meme?
Absolutely, that's
yeah, Baby Yoda was a really popular meme. Like, I don't know why that caught fire so quickly. I guess it's like a mix of nostalgia and it's like a little, like, it's kind of like so cute and little that it was so memeable.
I feel like that was part of like their marketing plan. Like they knew when they made that character that was going to become a meme, I feel like.
Yeah.
And like every single episode had like another format that came out of it. you know.
Yeah,
sure.
Baby Yoda would do something new each episode that was memeable. They
Yeah.
knew. They knew.
Yeah, like I didn't start watching it right away, and then I saw the memes, and I was like, every episode had a new, meme that came out of it. And I was like, I literally have
Yeah.
to watch this for like work research, like homework now.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting, actually, piggybacking off of Baby Yoda is, I think everyone agreed that like what a memeable character, like, it really transcended culture for a moment. And I love Disney. As much as I love Disney, part of their criticism was not being able to capitalize on that piece of IP beyond all the exposure quickly enough, which I think is interesting because doing things is, creating a platform of just that. It's seeing these trends, creating the content, and creating commerce and partnerships, out of it. So, maybe what we should first have is an understanding of what doing things is in this ecosystem beyond just, a meme network. And, would love for I'm sure everyone's really curious. So, take it away, whoever wants to jump in first.
Yeah. Do you want me to just kind of like go through the origin story and like kind of like it's pretty important to like who we are today. I can start there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I started an account called Shitheadsteve about 6 years ago. And it was a meme page that was I was making original memes and also reposting funny stuff from all over the internet. And it was a time where like the big meme pages were just repost pages. So I really started doubling down on original content. I met Derek along the way, and we teamed up. He had a page called Drunk People Doing Things, and it was growing like crazy. And I wanted to be a part of it with him. And so we partnered up and launched all these different channels. And fast forward to today, like we had a few million followers collectively when we formed the company, and now it's around 60 million followers, over 20 channels and brands. And we have an original show called All Gas No Brakes, which is outside of, I mean, it is in the meme landscape because we're able to like turn Andrew into a meme and like take screenshots from the different episodes and really help like grow the account a lot quicker by turning him into a meme. So the business today is like a mix of mostly meme content. We have All Gas No Brakes as an original show. We're doing advertisements and selling a lot of merch and have some subscription revenue with Patreon. We're the number 5 Patreon account on the whole platform, I think now, maybe 6. And that's with All Gas No Brakes. So yeah, I'd say it's like, and Derek, you can add to this whenever, but it's like we're just a media company for an audience with, I would say, less of a long attention span. Like they want to just be stopped in their feeds and laugh and share something with their friends with memes. And it's the same thing with All Gas No Brakes. The episodes will get up to like 10 minutes or so on YouTube and longer on Patreon, but it's still in that same category of content on the internet. It's like very memeable, very shareable, funny stuff and relatable stuff that you would love to catch up with an old friend over in the DMs,
Of that. And so what's the ultimate vision? I think that's awesome, the history and where you're at now. But, if you guys could write your own ticket next 3 to 5 years, what does doing things look like?
I think it's kind of going off that Disney model. We're literally an IP factory, and we'll touch on like Lee Ayers. He's the creator of Middle Class Fancy. He's a part of the team and incredible. He created a phrase called "Crispy Boys." That IP was then really valuable down the road when we partnered up with Bud Light on it and like launched merch together. And each channel that we have has its own path to success, whether it's All Gas with monthly merch drops, Patreon, YouTube, podcasts, that's where that brand's going. But stuff like Shitheadsteve, we're launching games. We're going to have You know, we're basically the Spencers of 2020 online, and actually relevant, funny, you know, gag gifts, puzzles, and stuff like that. So my point is, you know, in a few years down the road, we want to keep acquiring and keep launching brands and becoming as big as possible in the meme space and outside of the meme space. You know, just that comedy space. We're trying to be the comedy network of the future, and yeah, just continue to build IP.
Yeah, just to like build on the vision, I think like things like all these meme pages that we have and that we acquire, like I think can build more than just off, they can build off the platform. So something like gamers doing things like, you know, fantasy world, like could have, you know, like its own esports team one day. Like that, those are things that we strive to and we're moving towards. And each one has their own unique thing. You know, something like a meme page like Shitheadsteve is gonna have, you know, games like board games, card games, stuff like that. You know, yeah, Gamers has its esports team thing that it can do, and each one has its unique things. Some things might be live events. You know, maybe No Chaser, one of our bigger pages, has you know, those kind of opportunities.
Got it.
Yeah, the building off the platform thing is really important to us, whether it's like, you know, Patreon is sort of off the platform. It's we're in control of our own destiny there. You know, consumer products that end up in retail. We have our puzzles are going to be in retail all over next year. Same with some of our games that we're launching. So it's just in events also really exciting stuff.
That's really cool. And, you know, I love the example that you gave about, you know, Disney and, you know, I think alluding to it, the power of IP, right? The intellectual property you're creating and all the various things that you can do with it. And I know we're going to talk about the e-commerce and product side, but before that, you know, I'd be curious to know, like, what's the philosophy to even create your post, to create this IP? How do you even know it's something that's going to resonate, that you can create franchises around?
Yeah,
I think
you got it.
I think it starts with like, we just have to create stuff for our pages a lot of the time. And like, we know, like we just go through this like process every day where like a lot of it's brainstorming, but like, you know, each brand manager has their own task and they have help, you know, throughout like, you know, our collective group. But I think like once we know something like is taking off, like Lee Ayers, who created Crispy Boys, that meme, it's kind of like transcended that page. Like that, you know, we don't know that going in. Like he doesn't, like he's not planning on like, you know, using that to, you know, court Bud Light for a marketing campaign. It's just something that he creates because he thinks it's funny, and the audience responds to it, and then we build off of that, and we keep, you know, if the audience keeps responding to it, then it becomes like, okay, this is important, and that we can do something with this, you know.
Yeah, the engagement is super important. Like we're all the people running pages, and like I'm always looking at the engagement since I started with Shitheadsteve years ago. Just within the first few minutes of a post going up, you know if it's the next meme. Like if it hasn't been talked about yet and you like come up with this concept and you post it and you see the engagement skyrocketing, we immediately know like, oh, okay, that thing that we just made is resonating with people. People are sharing it. We have all the data, so we can use that to come up with products and stuff like that, and just know what is trending.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I think like brand managers just get like an intuition based off engagement, and they don't even have, it's not like a statistical thing. You just kind of, you know, you have these certain benchmarks that you look at, and you know instantly like this is going to be a good meme or a bad meme, and then you kind of through that information, like, you know, like, okay, this kind of post didn't do good last time, you know, and then, you know, that informs your next post, and it kind of just like becomes this like subconscious thing that brand managers kind of develop over time.
And are those brand managers, is it like a writer's room where it's just like everyone's in a room and or like on a Zoom, right? And they're just like, I've got this idea, or do you just implicitly trust these rock stars to just think of ideas and own these accounts, and it's like kind of like one man, one woman teams?
It's a mix. So like there's definitely like people that lead the team, like lead on their page. So, you know, like someone like John Truly who runs Doggo's Doing Things, he kind of pioneered this Doggo language, which I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with that, but like that's kind of been his thing. But like we all get familiar with that and we all have insights to like what else is trending, and like we might see an opportunity, you know, and throw it at him and say, hey, like, you know, this meme might be good for Doggo's Doing Things if you flip it this way, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I think it's collaborative, but definitely each of our pages have like a lead for, and then, you know, a lot of our similar pages, like one person might be leading 3 of our pages, but they're usually kind of in like their own little category. They kind of tie together a little bit.
Got it. Got it.
And
So
just building off of what Derek just said,
yeah,
the Doing Things team, we're all pretty much remote workers. And so it is super collaborative. And we have this group chat that everyone kind of goes back and forth, and we brainstorm different ideas on for consumer products, as well as different memes and things that are trending on the internet. And it's crazy to see like the community that we've built within our own company of memers and different creatives. And it's so cool to be a part of. And we always are coming up with different ideas. And yeah, I just wanted to bring up that point because it's been pretty awesome to be remote.
It really sounds like you have a fun, focused, creative shop that's creating the IP, which I think is awesome. And I think, Amanda, you alluded to not only, you know, is your team, you know, brainstorming, creating these ideas for memes, but perhaps these brand managers and people are thinking of these products, right? Like, what now can we do with the audience? And I guess I want to use that to talk about your e-commerce business at large. You know, I think this idea of a meme account being this e-commerce business is a little newer to most, and I think it'd be awesome to hear from you guys how it works, you know, what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, from this jump with Shitheadsteve, for me, I was selling t-shirts and some like gag gift products that I would come up with that were basically just memes. Like it started with just memes on shirts, and it's turned into like concepts that could be more than just a meme slapped on a shirt. And also our memes that we're slapping on shirts for Shitheadsteve and the other meme pages, it's designs that work on apparel. It like flows really well onto the shirt and looks right. But yeah, the process is always like, we've always seen e-commerce as kind of like a one of those freedom things. From a brand standpoint, we can do whatever we want. We don't have to like worry about lining up advertisers. And Derek and I realized that like once these shirts really started to pop off, we didn't need to do these ads that we used to do that were really not like great advertiser partners from the beginning. It was really small brands that it felt like we were shilling, and we didn't like that feeling. So we saw the potential with merch pretty early on.
Yeah, just to build off that, like, yeah, like a lot of the ads early on, like we had this following and we were like, okay, we want to like make this a thing that we can do as a career. How do we monetize this? And at first, like the only opportunities that were coming to us were like knockoff AirPods, you know, that were $40, but they're, you know, probably $1 to the, you know, person that's buying them, and it's drop ship. So it takes forever. And then the content doesn't do good because it's not really like, it's not memeable really. So once we kind of discovered like print on demand, like clothing, we realized like we can make content that like the merch itself is a meme, so it's going to perform way better. There's no audience fatigue to it, you know what I mean, like versus selling an AirPod, you know, a knockoff AirPod thing. So it just once we cracked that code, it gave us that freedom that Reed like spoke about. Like we can now just like schedule these merch posts instead of shitty knockoff products.
That makes sense. So
that's early days. Like that's kind of like how we started with it. We can go deeper if you want, like present day stuff.
Well, yeah.
So like I just want to say, like, obviously like the brand partnership side of it has opened up because like a lot of big advertisers have, you know, realized that memes is like a viable space to advertise in. And so like the memes have gotten so much better because we're advertising for products that are like kind of much more well known and memeable in themselves. But in the early days, it was very scarce for something like that.
And so what's the makeup of like the business now as far as like your intention in the revenue streams? Like how much is this e-commerce merch world a part of your business?
Yeah, it's close to about 30% this year. And it's really blown up from last year. Like it's going to be well over 4 times what we did last year. The e-commerce side of it, we've been really, and that's been planned. Like we want to have that freedom and a business that's not so closely tied to the advertising market. Like we want to just be able to have fun and launch launch products that our audience cares about and wants to share with their friends. That's why I'm really pumped about these games. So yeah.
That's awesome. So, you know, it seems like your e-commerce business is growing like a lot. Do you, when it comes to like advertising and e-commerce, do you see you valuing both, or do you want this e-commerce world to be an even bigger portion of the pie?
Advertising is always going to be, a big part of the business, but we see the e-commerce, consumer products business just outpacing that over time. And it's happening pretty quickly. Like for Doggos Doing Things, we have, and that's one of John Truly's brands that we acquired a while back, launched a book with Hachette called Doggos Doing Things. It's a coffee table book. That's just one example of how one of our channels is turned into a product. Same with like No Chaser was an energy drink that we launched. So
that's awesome. So right now, it sounds like you have a really awesome creative process of creating and thinking about these products. What happens after that? Once you have the idea, how do you create, manufacture, look at inventory, distribute that? I'd be curious to know.
We kind of have a bunch of different systems set up. It just depends on the product and the brand that we're launching it under. So as Derek and Reed were talking about before, they started with on-demand, and on-demand is still like a good part of the business, and it gives us the freedom to kind of test different products with really no risk at all. And because we have all of these different brands, for example, we can come up with a funny relevant t-shirt that might be related to something that's going viral on our meme pages, and we can throw a design together, put it on an on-demand service, make some sort of a creative behind the shirt, and then test it on one of our smaller pages, like Fake News Network, for example. So if that shirt, if it picks up steam, if it pops off, if we sell, a bunch of different pieces, we can move that design from on-demand to more of like a pre-sale model, which increases our margin. It's better for us. But if that shirt, for example, only sells like 5 units, there's still no risk to doing that because the customer still gets the product. But then we also have the pre-sale model that I was talking about as well. So if we have a product that we think is going to do really well, for example, the Fluffy Friends puzzle that Reed was just mentioning, it's essentially like we came up with this concept of doing prank puzzles. So the outside of the box, it looks like just a field of fluffy puppies, but then inside the box, when you put the puzzle together, it's just a bunch of dogs taking a shit on a lawn. And so this concept we really felt good about. It was kind of like in the quarantine times when everyone was doing puzzles too, so it was great. And because that's not really a product you can do on demand, we decided to do a pre-sale model. So we marketed that product for a specific amount of time, and with pre-sale, the sky is the limit. So we just sold as much as we could in that period of time, and then fulfilled those orders, 2 to 3 weeks after we closed that. I'm blanking on the word, but closed off the sales. Yeah. And then the third thing is holding inventory, which I think is pretty self-explanatory.
That's cool. So, I mean, it's interesting. It almost feels like, if I were to compare your process, sometimes it feels like a streetwear drop. It's just like, you've got this cool content, you build the hype, and then you give limited quantities, you provide scarcity around, the IP to kind of create that flywheel, which is really interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think All Gas No Brakes is really breaking into that streetwear like art community, and it's really cool to see all the like fans of the show that are like serious designers and like really important people in that community that we're doing collaborations with on future drops.
Speaking of All Gas No Brakes, can we let's hear a little bit more about what that show is and how that fits into the doing things ecosystem?
Yeah, so when Derek discovered Andrew, he was doing interviews in New Orleans and basically was interviewing drunk people on Bourbon Street, and we thought it was the like funniest thing ever. And Andrew ended up parting ways with his past show, like this thing he was doing with a friend, and wanted to launch something with us. And we absolutely jumped on the opportunity really quickly. And we were like, "What do you want?" He's like, "An RV." We were like, "Done." He like all this other stuff to make the show happen. And basically started out just him and two of his best friends traveling around the country in an RV, capturing crazy content and just really like niche subcultures that you've never heard of a lot of the times. And it's really cool to get that view of America through Andrew's deadpan stare into the camera, where he's not really being like Borat trying to be the funniest guy in the room. He's like just letting people talk. And it's pretty crazy how simple that it sounds, but it works, and it's been really fun. I mentioned Patreon is like the biggest source of revenue for that show. We're number 5 or 6 or 7 at the lowest on the whole platform in a year. Merch drops are a big part of it too. We're in a development deal with Tim and Eric for like something really awesome that I can't really talk about, but something cool is coming there. YouTube, and then we have a podcast that we just launched, and we're we just gutted the whole RV and we're turning it into a podcast studio. So that's pretty exciting. That's basically it though.
Wow, I mean, it really sounds like you guys are creating a lot of varied revenue. I mean, you're kind of building what you've described already. It's kind of there. And I guess to that end, recently saw I'm seeing how big brands are paying more and more attention to the meme industry. And you guys just recently did a partnership with Bud Light, right? Like how was that, and how has it been working with newer, bigger brands? Are they just wanting the meme content? Are they also wanting the products? Like, what's that whole world look like?
Yeah, so Bud Light came to us, and they wanted to do a campaign that associated their brand with they wanted to be involved in the meme world, and they were fans of our pages, and they wanted to associate their product with being crispy. At the same time, this thing we talked about already, Lee Ayers created this thing called Crispy Boys, and that just means like a light domestic beer. So we developed, it basically became the official crispy boy of of Middle Class Fancy. And then we did other variations of that for our other pages. But yeah, that was a really successful campaign. And then that led on to working with them on like maybe 5 other campaigns after that.
Wow.
Yeah, the Super Bowl was a big one with Post Malone and Bud Light Seltzer. So that was a really cool campaign.
And have you worked with any other big brands?
Yeah, we've worked with a bunch. I could send over a list. I could also pull them up. There's a bunch. I mean, we've worked with Call of Duty. Dole is one we're working with.
T-Mobile.
Netflix, Hulu. Solar Opposites campaign was driven a lot by us, and that was like the #1 show on the whole platform. And that was a big meme campaign.
I love that show.
Yeah, so for those kind of campaigns, we basically get early access to them, and then we get to watch episodes and literally go like frame by frame to pick out the most memeable moments. And maybe it'll be a clip, maybe it'll be an actual screenshot, and then we just run that through like our whole creative team, which, you know, that's like the source material organically for a lot of memes. So when you get that early access and you get to like do that just for a meme campaign, those are the easiest kind of ads to do, really, because, you know, those are going to become memes in themselves, probably organically. Mm-hmm. So we just get like this like trove of source material to build off of. And so like it's there, if you go through our Slack channels when we're like making stuff, those kind of campaigns, like there's just unlimited content we can create with those kind of things. So it's like the most fun thing to work on. That's and really that happened with the Bud Light Post Malone campaign that Reed mentioned. They mm-hmm. gave us early access to the campaign and to the commercial, and then they ran it just before halftime. And the idea was we had like 50 meme pages on standby that we already created memes for this commercial. And so at halftime, when people hopped on their phone, they already had seen the Post Malone commercial. And then in their feed, if they follow a lot of meme pages, it was like taken over by that Post Malone commercial that ran. So it kind of became like a really viral format. There was a couple like screenshots that we picked from it. And it really became like, we're still seeing memes that came from that commercial. Like, you know, we saw one like last week still coming up. Like, so it's definitely like lasted and became like an actual format outside of the campaign.
It's really cool. So I'm curious, again, it sounds like you guys are doing a lot of things. What, like, how does your team look? How is it comprised? How many people are there? Who's doing all this work?
Yeah, it's like, how many people are on the creative team now? Like 15 probably, maybe.
Yeah,
more.
If you're counting brand managers, yeah.
Yeah, about 15 creative folks, and then we have about like 6 people on the sales side, account side. Then there's the licensing business has a few people over there for video licensing and stuff like that, clearances. Then eCommerce is like 3 or 4. So we have like a total of like 26 or 7 full-time employees, and then about like 40 total, including contractors and stuff like that.
Cool. And fully remote.
Fully remote. Yeah, we had an office in Atlanta, but when the pandemic hit, we went fully remote. We were already operating pretty remotely. So whenever the pandemic's over, we're definitely thinking we'll probably have an office, maybe in LA, because a lot of people are out here now.
Cool.
But we've always been mostly remote.
Yeah, it wasn't too big of a change up. Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just saying it wasn't too big of a change up when COVID happened. A lot of people were used to working from home, and just we're big iMessage advocates. We have a lot of group chats on iMessage. It seems to be the most efficient way for us. But yeah, it's been good. Remote life is good.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I have one more question, and then I want to open it up to everyone tuning in. Feel free, everyone listening, to give your questions in the Slack, the Brand Club Slack. You know, I'm sure the Doing Things team would love to hear from you and answer any and all questions. But you know, I'm curious from your perspective. It really feels like Doing Things is at the forefront of perhaps a larger industry at large. And I'd be curious to know what you guys feel is the future of this industry, where it's going to go, how it's going to look, how big it could get.
Yeah, sorry, you broke up in the very last part. You're just asking like how big do we think it will get and where do we see it going, basically?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we kind of joke about this idea of like eventually going public with the stock ticker meme. I think there's the sky's really the limit in terms of how big this can get, because meme content doesn't mean that it's just image with text over it. You know, All Gas No Brakes is the perfect example of that. We want to make people laugh and entertain people, and that's a huge industry. So we want to continue to grow all sides of the business. I think consumer products is probably the most exciting and long-term, most valuable to us. But yeah, we just want to continue to acquire and launch new things that are really entertaining and fun to watch.
Yeah, I think like bringing like really good creators into our network and like helping them. Like there's a lot of people that you know, have really good content, but not a ton of people are seeing it. And then we have like the kind of infrastructure that we built through a lot of trial and error and bringing on smart people that know different things about different aspects of the business. And we figured out a lot of the components of how to take something that's good content and get it seen by the most people, and you know, successfully monetize it so it becomes a career for these people instead of like a hobby. Like for me and Reed, it was a kind of a hobby and a dream in the beginning, and we went through all these, you know, trial and error things to bring it to where it's at. And so now it's like plug and play. If we bring on a creator, and we can show them how to fully like realize their dream and, you know, monetize, you know, what they're doing and have it seen by more people, which is ultimately the goal for someone that's creating good content. They want people to see it, you know.
For sure. Yeah, just to add on to that, like that's how I see All Gas No Brakes playing out, and how it's already played out, honestly, with Andrew. Like we took his idea and made it his dream a reality, as like cliche as that sounds. And we can do that with a lot of other people, and we're in talks with tons of different creators who are wanting to come on board and work with us, and like we want to blow things up for people. And yeah, that's
Right.
definitely kind of how we see it.
Love it. I love it, guys. Okay, well, we got some questions. This first one comes from Jane, and she asks, do you work with other meme accounts outside of your properties? How do you go about those collaborations?
Yeah, so we kind of came up in the meme space. Obviously, me and Derek are good friends with like all the big meme people. So we definitely work with outside pages on ad campaigns, and also helping us push out merch promotions when it makes sense, or you know, we have a product coming out, we want to get it on. You know, Grape Juice Boys, for example, is one of our good friends. He's hilarious, and like we work with him and a lot of the other ones. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's super easy and fun.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, Rita, like we started creating content with a lot of like we started early on, and we didn't all have a lot of following, but we all had a passion for creating content. So like we all worked together a lot, and that's continued. Like, you know, like John Truly and Lee Ayers weren't there like founding of Doing Things, but we worked with them, and they, you know, and then they eventually became, you know, we acquired them and they became a part of the company. But there's a lot of other people like that are just in our network. So like when we have a big campaign, we can reach out to all of the biggest meme pages if, you know, some advertisers interested in working with them or whatever. So yeah, like we have a relationship with almost every big memer on Instagram, I'd say, in some form or another.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, this next question comes from Angel, and she asks, have you ever said no to a collaboration or a brand, and why?
Yes, and because it was either, I mean, it's either fits on our brands or one of our brands and makes sense, or it doesn't. So to keep the answer as simple as possible, it's like we definitely have turned some brands down. It's just like Derek was saying in the very beginning of starting, like before we teamed up, really, like we were doing ads for like drop shippers, and the product we realized wasn't good, and we're like, oh wow, we didn't even like realize like it's super important, or we realized that very quickly that it's super important to be genuine in what you put out there, whether it's a product or an ad.
Yeah, I think to like manage the audience fatigue is like super important, because like really we just want them to be excited to like, you know, look at our content, share our content. And so something that we have to keep in our mind at all times is like, is the brand, or is the audience going to like this brand that we're doing ads for? And so there's always that decision that we have to take into account for sure.
Very cool. So another question. This one comes from Emma, and she asks, or states first, your team is so quick to produce content. What tactics do you use that can be transferable to non-meme teams to boost productivity?
iMessage group chat.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, let's just say your brand is a beverage brand. You want to make sure that you are in the cultural conversation, most likely. I mean, I think that's probably something that you could always be on the lookout for, is like, what's the new meme or what's being talked about, and then somehow make content that fits into that, where people are like, oh, this is part of the thing that we're all sharing already, and then it kind of like fits in to the conversation.
Yeah,
like
I was gonna say, sorry, I was just gonna say we have really good communication. So we're not afraid to just like, if something's going viral and we need to act on something quickly, like someone will just pick up the phone and call the other person, and like something will get acted on very quickly. You know, in previous positions that I've been in, that's not always the case. Like sometimes you have to go through an email and schedule a call, and those kinds of things get in the way. So I just think establishing forms of communication that help your team work most efficiently is always important.
Great. What campaign was a flop, and what did you learn from it? This comes from Steven.
I can answer that one. We had a campaign with a like meditation type app, and it just was not, like, it was kind of like the deal was like hustled through, and we were just like, yeah, let's just post it. And we didn't like think, this was very early days, and we didn't think about how it would look from an audience perspective when the same thing's being posted across several accounts. So you know, a lot of our audience will follow a couple of our brands at least. So we flopped on that one. Really bad engagement, but I mean, we just didn't do it again.
Yeah, I think not to get into like specifics about brands, but I think like a general rule is like, if a brand allows us to like kind of bring like native content for each page and doesn't try and pack too much messaging into it, like that's a successful campaign. And then when we usually run into trouble, it's like they want to.
Do we have him breaking up a little bit?
Yeah, I think you went out.
Yeah, I have him frozen.
No worries.
Stuck.
So much less opportunity to make something funny.
Oh.
There he is.
There you go.
Oh, sorry, did I cut out?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
froze. You almost
you
looked like a
froze.
meme for a second.
Yeah, you were like,
I don't know where I froze.
You can start over.
Okay, so what I was saying is the campaigns that do really well are the ones that allow us to just make like native content for the campaigns. And the ones that don't do good is the ones that are trying to pack too much info into a meme and like kind of put us in a box before we even start creating and say, these are the parameters for that. So like once they give us like there's certain brands that really understand like, do your thing on memes and like they just let you go. Those are the campaigns that are always the most successful. If we try to pack too much of their like messaging into it, it tends to be not as good of a campaign.
Got it. Okay, this one's really interesting. This comes from Caden, and he asks, are you preparing at all for the election? And as a follow-up, how are you preparing? If so, any lessons learned from the last election?
Yeah, lesson learned is like, I mean, last election was insane. This election's like even more insane somehow. And there's going to be a lot of good memes and funny products to come out of whatever happens. I think we're just going to be super nimble and come up with funny concepts for content and also e-commerce.
Yeah. I definitely am going to be watching the debate later, and I think the over under on like solid meme formats that come out of it is 2.5. So, and I'm taking the over. So,
nice. This comes from Emma, and she asks, what is your dream meme campaign?
There's so many good ones. Like there's so many memes that are around products that if that brand reached out to us, it'd be like a dream campaign. I don't know.
What would be a good one?
Which one?
Is like Tesla. A Tesla campaign.
Oh,
would be awesome.
yeah.
Just because the Elon is such a meme in himself, and like we have never done a car yet. Like that would be, for me, I think that would be awesome.
Definitely.
And he would be like so on board with like us getting weird. He understands memes, so that would be like an ideal campaign.
Neuralink. We could promote. Rain.
Love that.
Cool. Business with Elon Musk. So let's see here. We've got one from Kayla, and I think this is she's a fan. She says, I love what you're doing and follow some of your accounts. Do you work with medium-sized brands, and what does it look like to work with you at doing things?
Yeah, we work with all sizes of brands. And what was the second question?
What does it look like working with you? If I'm a brand and I want to work with you, how does that process look like?
Yeah, so we first talk about like, okay, what is your objective? Are you trying to get awareness? Are you trying to drive downloads to an app? What are you trying to do? Second step is how, like, do you have any assets that we can take and turn into a meme? Like with, the Post Malone Bud Light campaign, we were given early access to the commercial. And so we were able to take that asset and memify it to spread it further on the internet. And then it's like, okay, well, we'll send a proposal, or sorry, they'll send a proposal, and we'll come up with like all these different directions for creative and kind of narrow it down with them, and make sure we're all on the same page creatively. And it's some back and forth in terms of like, okay, this is your objective, this is what you want to get out of the campaign, and like this is the type of creative you're looking for, and we'll either memify an asset, or we can just, like, even if you don't have any assets, we'll be able to come up with some stuff that some memes and some content that will push to whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think a big part of that too is like identifying the pages that'll do best with that certain brand. So if it's like Bud Light, like something like Middle Class Fancy is like perfect. So it's identifying what your brand is and which of our pages that we own and which of our pages in our network will be best for it. And then, there's like a creative process where we develop a bunch of stuff. We send it to the client. There's a round of, feedback. We change the memes to their liking, and then it's just a scheduling process after that.
That's awesome. This next question is from me, and I'm curious, what products are you creating right now? What are you excited about getting out into the universe?
Yeah, so holidays are coming up. It's always huge for us. Like the holidays have always been massive. We have during the holidays, we're always going to have the Christmas sweaters. We actually have some collectibles coming out this holiday season for All Gas No Breaks. Also for one of our other meme brands. So it's like memes in collectible form, action figures. Then we have more puzzles coming out. We have a meme game coming out that is like completely unique, has never been done. I'm really surprised it hasn't been, but the game's turning out amazing. We just had our first round of like actually playing the game last Friday. So that's going to be really big. And we're launching some alcoholic beverages. Can't say with which brand yet, but that's one thing. Am I missing anything else?
I don't think so. We have a couple cool collabs coming up with different brands and artists, and then we also have a few new products that I won't mention, but a few new products that you probably haven't seen before from our brands. It's exciting stuff.
Very cool. Another question. The questions are rolling in, guys. This comes from Bosun. I don't know if it's a nickname or not. Cool name. How do you measure success in a meme? And how does that definition differ from traditional digital content?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the engagement. It's not all about engagement. It's more about like, does this make you laugh? And then you put it out into the world and set it free, and hopefully it goes viral. But we can tell like in the very beginning whether it's going to be a successful meme, meaning like it performs well and people share it a lot. And we have like all the data to show like, past content, what's done well. And so we have something to like guide ourselves on in terms of engagement and like shareability.
Yeah, like each. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, last thing for me, like even on our advertising campaigns, one thing that really stands out is like, oh, this made it to the top of Reddit, and it's like being treated like an actual meme format, and it's going way beyond our own pages. Same with like regular content. That's always awesome to see it on other platforms popping up to the top of the feeds.
For sure. Yeah, I think just like every brand manager has their benchmarks that they kind of build and like create themselves, like that they know like, okay, if it's getting, for example, like certain pages that are a little smaller might be like 100 likes a minute or 200 likes a minute, and they'll kind of, and then comments come into that equation a little bit too. But I think those are kind of things that you kind of, it's intuitive after you run the page for a while and you stare at the numbers when you first post something and you click refresh over and over and over again. And that's something that every brand manager does to kind of like test, like, okay, is this hitting? And then, yeah, like within the first couple minutes, if it's a hitter or not.
Very cool. Piggybacking off of that, what tools do you use to measure the data and engagement, aside from, the platforms as is?
We use a thing called CrowdTangle for like growth and stuff like that. But for the like really quick like feedback for creators, like, oh, did my meme make it, or is this content I made doing well, it's like within the minute you're just looking through the insights on the Instagram app, or you know, on YouTube it's the Creator Studio. So YouTube's like more mature as a platform, and the insights are really granular and awesome. Instagram's also awesome, but it's a little more broad, but it's still plenty information for us to know if it's good or not.
That's cool. I'm sure it must be fun to just like look at the insights and try to understand how to take action on them. You know, like I'd wonder if, let's say, a particular meme goes viral, right? Reed, you were talking earlier about how within like the first moments you can tell. I wonder, do you go through a process of why that? Was it because it was a popular reference? Was it an image format? Have you started to dissect the reasons why to be able to replicate success?
Yeah, from a content, you mean from content perspective, or like creating new brands, or both?
From a content, right? I'm thinking like you just did a post, did well. Can you almost like scientifically know like this next post we predict it's going to go well because we're looking at these things?
Yeah, definitely. It's like there's so many different like branches of what makes a meme work, and it's like sometimes it's like, you know, the shredded bag of cheese in the fridge at 2 a.m. Like that meme is so weird, and like cheese, for some reason the word cheese is like so funny, and it's just random stuff like that like we notice is like reoccurring themes in the memes that do really well. You know,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. My bad.
I was gonna say like a meme. Shia LaBeouf was like raging on Zoom, and it was just like hilarious. And like he's just one of those very memeable people, kind of like the Owen Wilson wow thing back in the day. Like the wow thing was so funny. So like, you know, celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio is a big one. But there's other things like the weird like cheese thing, or other things that make it work.
Forklifts.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
I just said forklifts.
Oh yeah, so like trash. I think each page has their own like unique like inside jokes that really hit, and like so forklifts is an example of one that like really hits on Trash Can Paul. It's the stupidest thing in the world, but it's like forklift operators are like the pinnacle of society, and like they're holding up society. It's like kind of the joke. But yeah, so like each one has their inside joke, and then like once you run something like that, like say it's like Shitheadsteve and it's like the Tiger King or something like that, like Joe Exotic, like we post one of those, we see like crazy engagement, and then we're like, okay, you know, let's post another Joe Exotic meme because it's doing well, and then it kind of just, you see it happen, and it snowballs on itself. It doesn't, the trends don't always just like, they're not super blatant until you post it and you see the engagement, and then you kind of just go from there.
Very cool. Guys, it's been awesome. I have one more question coming from myself, and I think it's an important one. There's a lot of smart people listening, you know, this taking time out of their day to learn from you. Do you have any advice either on the meme front or the e-commerce front for the audience to take away with them as they kind of carry on?
I think
You go for it.
I think on the meme front, I would just say if you're interested in making content in general, it's really important that it's not like a duplicate of something else. It's got to be kind of original and have like something to it that like, for example, Middle Class Fancy has this very specific aesthetic where it's like this stock photo, white background, and then some text on the top. You know what I mean? And then it has very inside jokes that go with it. Like that page, if you see that randomly on the internet, anywhere, on Reddit or whatever it is, and you're familiar with the page, you know it's from Middle Class Fancy. the same thing goes with like Doggo's doing things. You know, it's a very specific language. There's a lot to it that's like very specific to that page. I think making things that like are instantly recognizable as unique and like that one thing is how you separate yourself and can like develop a brand and build it bigger.
Awesome.
And then just piggybacking off of Derek and talking about e-commerce a little bit. Say you have a community that you're building up on social already, and you don't know what to do or how to monetize it, and you want to get into e-commerce. On demand is always such a really safe option, and I mean, I would encourage you, even if you don't have a community yet, but you have a good idea for a design that you want to start selling, try on demand. There's literally no risk, and it's fun to test out as well.
Right.
Yeah, and just make stuff that you genuinely like. If you're trying to grow a community and make content, make something that feels unique and it's different than anything else out there. It's in your own voice and all that stuff.
Love it. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time. Reed, Derek, Amanda, you know, it was awesome to learn from you. Again, I'm Boye from the Future Party. Tony, I think we'll bring you in. Thank you so much for having us today.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks,
Boye,
Boye.
for moderating, and yeah, likewise. Thanks so much for Reed and Derek and Amanda. Clearly, y'all are in the content game with all the shares in Slack and the real world examples. Those are so helpful to have that context for the attendees here. It's super interesting to learn about a media that most of us just kind of digest in passing, and how much actual analytical thought and, you know, purpose and intent and entire business and industry goes around this. So love all that, love and appreciate all the questions coming through. So thanks for the attendees as well.